You don't ever go to Tirupati and come back without a laddu. The laddus at the temple are globally famous, but now they're in the news for the wrong reasons. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. There has been a furor after it has been discovered that a laboratory report completed as far back as July confirmed the presence of animal fat, including beef tallow and fish oil, in the ghee that is used to prepare and cook the laddus at the Tirupati Mandir. This has led to an inevitable political war as well, with the Chandrababu Naidu government blaming the former government headed by Jagan Reddy. Jagan Reddy, in turn, has accused the Chandrababu Naidu government of deflecting from real issues. In the meantime, Jagan Reddy's own faith has come into public debate, as has the wider debate over who should be in control of temples. The temple board that looks after administrative matters concerning the Tirupati Mandir, like temples everywhere else in the country, is a board that is appointed by the ruling party, by the ruling government of the state. To explain how this has happened or how it might have happened and who should be held responsible for it, I want to welcome a very special guest on the program today. We have Dushyanth Sridhar joining us. Dushyanth is, of course, a very well-known, very popular, much followed Vedic scholar, Vedic speaker. But he's also the author of a recently published book, Ramayanam, Volume 1, which, as the name suggests, there should be many more editions of the Ramayanam coming from Sridhar. Dushyanth Sridhar. So it's a pleasure to have you with us, Dushyanth, and good to see you. And congratulations. We know you've just come back from a major award ceremony. So felicitations on that. Let's start with what has happened here. You know, I was sharing a story. My mother was a journalist with the Hindustan Times many decades ago. And at that time, there used to be something called Shuddh Vanaspati. And she had uncovered how Shuddh Vanaspati was laced with beef tallow. So these things, the attempt to contaminate and adulterate ghee, they do take place. But how do they take place at a temple as famous, as publicly, in a sense, followed as the Tirupati temple? As I said, the Tirupati laddus are globally famous, and there's a whole story to how they're prepared, and we'll get to that. How could this happen, Dushyanth?
Namaskaram Barkha and namaskaram to all the viewers of Mojo Story. Thanks for those kind words. Thanks for those blessings as well. Coming to, yes, Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam is a very revered, very acclaimed Devasthanam in the world. As a Hindu temple, it has a very big global recognition and it has a very, very rich past. I will talk about the past, the references to Tirumala Tirupati in the ancient literature, right from the Rig Veda to the Tamil literature, to all of that later. Very quickly, to answer your question as to how could this adulteration happen, at the outset, I've told in many of the interviews, Barkha, the moment we saw the report come that there are traces of fish oil and all of that, my only prayer was, hope it is tested again and it is proven false. So, this is not some good news that you want, something to fall to. I honestly felt there should be three or more tests that is done. I'm sure it will be done. And after the sampling is done and after the test results come, I just pray, I just hope to Sri Venkateshwara Swami that there is no such adulteration in the ghee that was procured. But as of now, the only report that is available is this. And how this could have happened is either negligence on the part of the committee that procures the ghee, because the adulteration has happened in the ghee. Because technically the laddu has the bundi, which is made from a basin, and that's completely a vegetarian product. So that's a vegetable based product. So we get it from pulses, and then we have raisins, and then we have badam, and then we have cashews, and then we have lavangam and all of that. Then crystals, we call it kalkand, which is candy, sugar candy. So all of that is found. So there is no question of seeing animal in it, but the only product that comes from the animal is the ghee. And this is the only product which ingredient that could get adulterated. And looking at the report, it seems that there could have been traces of fish oil and beef and tard and all of that. That's very devastating. See, even before you go to the next question, Barkha, my point is, It is not about choosing to be a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, because the
Hmm.
constitution has given the right to every citizen to eat what they want. But when it comes to the Hindu practices, when it comes to temples, there are rules called the Agama Shastras. So Agama goes well in hand with Nigama. Nigama is Vedam. And Agama tells you the principles of the Atma, the connection of the Jivatma with the Paramatma, how the Paramatma manifests in a Divya Mangala Vigraha, and how it has to be installed. So the Agama for the temple is Vaikhanas Agama. So the Vaikhanasa Agamam is so clear in laying out down the rules how the temple should be run. Even in the Prasadam, you'll be surprised, Barkha. Chilies are not used. Red chilies are not used.
Hmm.
And we don't use oil, and it's only ghee. So
Hmm.
forget about beef or tard. Even oil isn't used. Even red chilies aren't used. And such being the rules, I do not know in how many containers did the contaminated ghee come. And was it for a certain period of time that this contamination was found? And was it found after they changed the vendor or after they changed the ghee? I do not know anything of it. I do not want to play into the politics. But as a practicing Hindu, it is kind of devastating to see this news.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is that this is not a debate, larger debate on vegetarianism vis-a-vis meat-eating practices. It is about a certain codified, set of instructions and rituals which not just forbid meat, they also forbid oil and red chilies. And I think that's important to understand. What is the symbolism, or what does this laddu mean to the devotees? See, prasad is a very big part of all, many faiths. You even not just mandir and prasad, you go to a gurdwara and you will come away with kara prasad and so on. So the prasad has been a big part of our subculture, Dushyant. But explain the prasadam at the Tirupati mandir in particular, and I think we did a little bit of research on how this laddu is prepared, what is its history, but I know you'll know much better than any of us, so do tell us.
Again, it's a pleasure to talk about one of the most revered, respected shrines, temples of this world, Tirumala, Tirupati.
Yeah.
See, the very hills, it's called a sit of seven hills, Barkha, and the reference to this is found in the Rig Veda. The Rig Vedic mantram says, Araikane vikate girim gaccha sadanve, shirim bitasya chebishtve chatayamasi. This is the Rig Vedic Rig that says, oh, it tells the follower, walk towards that hill from where all your Purva Janma Papam, your the accrued papas will go away and you will always seek bliss. So it talks about Shirim Bitasya, this Peetham where Mahalakshmi permanently stays, where this is the hill of prosperity. And corroborating this is a shloka in Brahmanda Puranam. There are over 6 Puranas that talk about the greatness of Venkatachalam Mahatmyam. It's called Venkatachalam, Venkatam, Tiruvenkatam, and so on. And there are references in the ancient Sangam literature of Tamil. So Tolkapiyam, which is of the 5th century BCE, clearly talks about Tiruvenkatam. And whenever they talk about the land where the Tamil language was spoken, the ancient Sangam literature says the northern boundary is the hills of Tirumala. And there are references in Kambaramayana, there are references between the 5th and the 8th century by the Alvars, the mystic saints. And then Bhagavad Ramanuja, 1,000 years before, he said, Brahmani Srinivase in his magnum opus called Sri Bhashyam. Vedanta Deshika talks about 108 verses about the Karuna, the mercy of this Lord called Daya Shatakam. There is the famous Suprabhatam by Prativadi Bhayangaram Annan Swami of the 14th century, which was popularized by Bharat Ratna M.S. Subbalakshmi, which begins with Uttishthot Tishtha Govinda Uttishta Garuda Dhwaja. All the composers of Bhakti tradition have sung, be it Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Annamaya, Uttakadu Kavi, many. So such is the legend. And in the last 1,000+ years, there is a documentation that talks about the inscriptions, the prasadam made, the contributions given by various kings. And that is a compendium in continuum. It is called as Tirumalai Vulugu. And it says that in 1480, the earliest reference is found to a sweet that was round in shape, and it was called Manoharam. So that which is very, very pleasing to the mind and the heart,
Yeah,
and of course the
right.
tongue. So it was called Manoharam. But it doesn't talk about the ingredients. In the first half of the 18th century, around the 1715, is when we have a documentational inscription that says something like a laddu was made with the besan and all of these ingredients, of course, ghee and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly, Barkha, the one prasadam which Tirumala Tirupati has been ancestrally or probably historically known for is not laddu. It is the vada. It's a dark hued flat base, and it's made up of urad and it has pepper. It's a very tasty vada, but for many of them they will find it very tough to bite. So that is the vada that is very well documented. Laddu came from the 15th century, then to the 17th century, and in the 1940s there were about 6 or 7 iterations made by Kalyanam Iyengar, if I'm right, and he came up with this laddu, the final prasadam that we see today. And there are 3 kinds of prasadam which is made, which is proktam, Kalyana Utsavam, and there's another prasadam which is made. The other prasadam is made very rarely for very important functions. The one which is made very big one is for Kalyana Utsavam, and then that the one which is small, which is made for all devotees to take home, is the proktam laddus. And all of this have the same ingredients. That's all. So now, what is prasadam? See, when we go typically to a temple, nobody should, they will ask a question, oh, does the creator need food? Essentially, he doesn't. He's sarvagya, sarvavyapi. He's omniscient, omnipresent. He doesn't require the food that we give. But in a temple, the bhavam is, the emotion is, you treat the Lord as your very atithi, your guest, or as your child. So like how you would wake up your child in the morning, you sing Suprabhatam. Like how you would give him a bath, you give Abhishekam. Then you give food. So this offering of food is to ensure that he showers his mercy and compassion on the food, and that which has been blessed by him is consumed by the devotees. There are many, many places even today, Barkha, where people go to the nearby temple, take that prasad, come home, and then only eat. So that's the belief we have. And last of all, see, this prasadam has ghee, has besan, has dry fruits, and even the spices, cardamom, and all of that in it. Why? Because many families from those days even till date are not well enough to buy all these ingredients like ghee and dry fruits. So when you go to Tirumala and you collect those laddus, I still remember in my childhood, whenever we used to go to Tirumala, Tirupati and used to come, they used to make small laddus in my home. They used to put one in my tiffin box and send, because that was like a multi-grain nutritional prasadam.
Yeah.
That is what is kind of devastating to me. See, there are so many parents who would be sending this to their children. The moment they know that there were traces of fish oil found, that hurts their belief system, and that should have not happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it true that there's a particular sort of sect that makes the laddus?
So see,
historically or traditionally.
So when we consider prasadam for a famous temple like Tirumala, Tirupati, or be that matter, Krishna temple in Guruvayur, Kerala, these are all temples that are open throughout the year and thronged by thousands of people every day. It's like 60 to 80,000 is the average number of devotees who come to Tirumala, Tirupati. On certain days, it can go even up to 2 lakhs. So given that, you cannot have the temple's own kitchen do all of it. So within the temple premises, there will be a kitchen where, the traditional firewood and all of that is used. And then that prasadam is served to the devata within the temple. And that is distributed to devotees within the temple. But the laddus that we get served is made in a mechanized kitchen. If you go to Tirumala, just outside the temple, because it's huge, you'll have to, these are all not 1 or 2 liters of ghee that we are talking about. They'll be using like thousands of liters every day. And you need at least 1,000 to 1,200 people engaging in this process. I'm sure but to answer your question, I would say that I'm a Tamil Brahmin. And I belong to this community called as the Iyengars. So traditionally, Iyengars were deployed in making of the laddus. Honestly, I can't comment more about this because I'm not sure who is making it today. And and we are not allowed access to that kitchen because of the food hazards and precautions and all of that. So it's a prasadam place, so we can't go. So in those days, yes, Iyengars were involved. Even today, there should be presumably a large number of Iyengars. This is all I can say.
I actually asked you because our common friend Vikram Sampad did tell me that you were from the community that traditionally the Iyengars were the ones who made the laddus. That is correct, right?
So, a large section of the Tamil Brahmin Iyengars have been serving the Vishnu temples
I
for a very
see.
long time in the south
I
part
see.
of India. So, if you go to any Vishnu temple from Sri Rangam,
Hmm.
the famous ones, Kanchipuram, to Tirumala, Tirupati, to many temples in the southern part of Karnataka, and majorly all Vishnu temples in Tamil Nadu, it is the Iyengars who are the priests and also who form a major section of the cooks. So, we call it Madappalli, and that's where the food is made, and for Bhagavan the prasadam is made, and a large section of them come under the Iyengar community. But given the scarcity of resources, human resources today, I'm not sure if all temples deploy Iyengars, or they could be deploying other sects and communities as well.
Okay, very interesting. Now let's come to what's happened. As you said, it's devastating to the belief of hundreds of thousands of people, men, women, children, the elderly. My question to you is this: this report came out in July. We are in September. Firstly, it is not clear why it has taken this long for it to come into the public domain. Two, there is a huge debate ongoing about, who are the vendors, who was it outsourced to. In this particular case, the talk is of a Tamil Nadu based company, a private vendor. How could this happen? Where do you think the weak link is? And there's also a lot of political noise. There's political noise. The two parties are arguing in Andhra Pradesh, Jagan Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu. There is also a debate over faith. There's a debate over who should be on temple boards. So I'm going to try and unpack this one by one. Is the problem the way the vendors are chosen? What is the problem?
Okay, so two things that come to my mind right away, like top of the mind recall, is one. I This is an overall thought. I wouldn't say this is completely because of that. The government, be it the central government or the state government in any state, has no business to be in temples. I'm very clear about it because whatever reason they give,
Irrespective of which party it is.
whichever party it is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
See,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when it comes to religion and religious interests, we keep telling and keep reminding people in every debate and discussion that we're a secular country. So, in a secular country where it is presumed that the government has no official religion of its own, why should one religion alone have control? Why aren't the other religions having? So, my point is, I'm not saying, okay, you've taken control of temples, take control of mosques. No, it's the other way around. So, extend the same courtesy to us. See, so that's one thing that comes to my mind immediately as a blanket thing, because there are lots of layers in it, Barkha. Because when you take a TTD board or anything, the highest person will be appointed by the state government. And in this case, okay, I'm not casting any kind of doubts or anything, but here it happens to be the uncle, the paternal uncle of Sri Jagan Mohan Reddy. You can say that the person was elected to Rajya Sabha, he's an independent person, and all of that. But they are related is the truth. One. And second thing, if I all the debates that I've been seeing, because I do not know the details, they gave a list of people who were there from the YSRCP, and they also say that the religion that they are affiliated to is not Hinduism. So my question is, why? See, why would you appoint a Dushyanth Sridhar to a Jama Masjid board? That's my question. So, in a temple that believes in religious practices in Agama, why should the government be there, and especially a list of people from the ruling dispensation of a different religion be there? So, all this does raise a lot of questions, Barkha. And in the last 5 years, we cannot say that the temple was bereft of controversies. It was marred with controversies. There were lots of tickets issued of the buses that ply from the foothills to the top that carried calls for conversion behind the ticket, and all that was quite factual and verified. So and there have been lot of mushrooming churches, many, not one or two, many around the Tirumala hill. See, again, you can say that I would honestly bat for the thing that there's nothing called as a Hindu area, Christian area, Muslim locality in India. This is all one country. But why this sudden rise? Because we have seen the effect of demographics, especially in religion, changing in different parts of country. Now that you're back from Kashmir, we have known that there were some problems because of the religion as well. So why? And that too, there's one rule, Barkha. When you enter the Tirumala Tirupati premises, the temple, if you belong to a different religion, you should be signing a declaration form stating that I, so and so, I'm of a different religion, but I do respect the sentiments of this temple. I respect Hinduism. I respect and have love for Venkateshwara Swami. This is the declaration that the temple has. And from the debates, I understand that Jagan Mohan Reddy hasn't signed even one declaration, though he has attended to the temples. So, see, my question is, signing the declaration wouldn't make him a Hindu. Not signing wouldn't make him a monster. So my point is, all these land up in the first point, that government should not control temples. As simple as that. And second point is, this is a point that I'm raising as a devotee. This has nothing to do with the government or anything. See, I have often told in my lectures, when you visit a place of worship, in case of Hinduism, our own temples, a devasthanam, a mandiram, Bhagavan himself is the prasadam. Bhagavati herself is the prasadam. When you look at Krishna, what jangri and jalebi and all that you want, he is my jangri, he is my jalebi. He is everything to me. I don't require anything. But over and beyond that, when you go to your parents' place, sure, when I go to my mother's place, she will not let me without eating anything. She'll say, take this and go, take that and go. Shall I pack this for you? So same case when you go to a temple, the parents whom we see as Devi and Devata, they are not going to send us empty stomachs. So they are going to give us some prasadam. So prasadam should be only in that quantity. The moment you make a prasadam, in large scale, like we made 1,100 tons of laddu. I personally, as a Hindu, take no pride in that. So then it becomes a mechanized process. And when you have to, import like 15,000 kgs of ghee, one or two cases like this will come. So prasadam should be as simple as that.
Okay, you've made a lot of different points, and I have a few questions, right? You said, why is the government involved in the control over temples when it's not involved in the control of mosques or gurdwaras or churches, right? How would you see the debate around, the Wakf board legislation, which has currently gone to a select committee? In parallel, it occurred to me. So I just wanted your thought on that. Would you say that no religious place of worship, no religious management should be in the hands of government, even if it involves land? In a way, it's similar, right? Because land resources are tied up to these debates.
Okay, so I will give you a case that was that came into the point of discussion a fortnight back. This is a temple called Tiruchendurai in Tamil Nadu, in the state of Tamil Nadu, which has a maximum number of temples with like exquisite architecture. Here is a temple called as Tiruchendurai. It is a temple dedicated to Shiva, and there is Parvati. And this temple is a very age-old temple. There is a Sthala Purana to the temple. And the earliest reference is found of the first half of the 7th century by a Tamil mystic poet called as Tirujnana Sambandar. So he sings in his Tamil verses in chaste Tamil about the greatness of the deity there, the Devata there, who's Shiva and Parvati. He sings in beautiful Tamil verses, which is a part of the Panniru Tirumurai. So his timeline is documented, his verse is documented. So that I'm talking about the first half of the 7th century. And as the temple was already there, because he has sung on the temple, later, the grandfather of Rajaraja Chola, who lived 1,000 years back, Rajaraja Chola lived 1,000 years back, his grandfather was called Parantaka Chola, and he has contributed immensely to the temple, and we have stone inscriptions. And his daughter-in-law helped restore the temple. And to your surprise, you'll be knowing that this temple is a part of the Wakf board now.
No, I am sure there are those debates, but I was just asking the principle of where the government should enter on religious matters. And I'm assuming that one of the reasons governments don't want to give up control of temples is because of the resources attached to temples, the influence of temples. I'm assuming that is the reason. Why does any government want to control a temple, according to you?
Okay, so see, when I have participated in debates regarding the government control of temples, one purva paksham, prima facie, that they lay is
Yeah.
they say that if we give the temples back to the Hindus, there will be discrimination. That's the premise that they have. The first, so they say that there was discrimination in the past and that discrimination will continue. So the premise that they have is, if the government controls something, there will be no discrimination. When it is given to the followers of a certain community, then the discrimination will begin. Let's take this as is. Now in that case, let's take the Muslims and the Christians. In the Muslims too, though they do not support a varna, a caste system, there is caste in Islam. So there are Pasmanda Muslims, there are Ansaris, there are Ashrafs. And if you look to the current governing body of most of the mosques and dargahs, I'm sure you will find a large section of them being from the Ashraf and the Ansaris. And you will barely find any woman being a part of any of these boards. So if the premise is, if it is given back to the community and there is going to be discrimination, now you already have discrimination happening in the mosques. So that gives you all the more reason for the government to take the mosques in, like how temples have been
You're
taken, but
you're
they
you're
don't
you're
do it
you're
with the.
bas- you're basically saying have the same rule, one yardstick for control over all places of worship. If the government isn't in control of mosques and churches and gurdwaras, then they shouldn't be in control of temples. If they're in control of temples, they should also be in control of the other places of worship, because discrimination is there in all faiths, in one or the other case, basis gender, basis caste, and so on. All right. Now the
Yeah.
second point. This, sorry, you wanted to say something about that? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to
So
move on. Yeah.
one
Yeah.
is the reverse argument that if you say that this rule discrimination is the major concern, then there is
Yeah.
already discrimination in the other religions as well. Then take their
And
places of
also, and
worship as
also,
well.
and also, and also in Hinduism, that what how Dalits are treated on the entry of temples needs to be acknowledged.
Okay, now, in that point, I would like to bring in that Tamil Nadu HRNCE that has been there in the debate for quite some time. So they
Okay.
they presumably have 36,000 temples plus under their control, under the board.
Yeah.
And there are multiple cases where the discrimination happens not from the Brahmins. And for the last 60 years, it is only the Dravidian parties which have been ruling the state of Tamil Nadu. I don't think Congress, after the days of Kamaraj, and BJP has ever ruled the state of Tamil Nadu. They might have been a part of the ruling dispensation, but the ruling dispensation has largely been an Annadurai or a Karunanidhi or currently the Stalin-led DMK or MGR, Jayalalitha or Edappadi-led ADMK. So for the last 60 years, they are under the control. They have that HRNC and they control 36,000 plus temples of various denominations. It could be Shaivism, it could be Vaishnavism, Shaktism under their control. And they have been owning all the properties. When I say owning, they have to manage and ensure that there is justice with respect to the properties. You know, thousands of acres of land under their watch has gone missing. Thousands of acres of land have been encroached, and all this comes from their very own audit. You don't have to go for an external audit. So, if they say that the land and all of that will be taken away, discrimination will stop, there are places where discrimination happens, and it is not because of Brahmins at all, Barkha. You can check on various reports. So, if the premise is okay, if the temples come under the government control, land will be saved, they will be documented, the money will be spent for the right purposes, and third of all, the discrimination will not happen is proven false in case of the Tamil Nadu government.
Okay.
So yeah,
Sorry. No, no, I was just saying Tamil Nadu has a peculiar set of paradoxes, because all of the politics is based in anti-Brahminism, modeled on Periyar, and you and I have spoken about it in another context. But I think the larger point that you make is taken, that there is discrimination socially across faiths, either on the basis of caste or gender or some other identity. And government control or lack of government control should be uniform across faiths. I think that is the point that you're making. To come back to this subject.
True. Barkha, just
Sorry.
one point, very quick point. Now, in Hinduism especially, I'm sure other religions will also have it. In Hinduism especially, there's a practice that if the child falls sick, the mother will have a 10 rupee note folded and kept near her puja room, and she'll say, next time I visit the temple, I'll put it into that donation box, which is called hundiyal. This is a very common practice, and people make large donations as well. So, Tirupati, or any temple for that matter in Hinduism, has this donation concept where you donate to the temple. And the Hindus, the believers, donate to the temple, considering that this will be used for renovation, restoration purposes. And all these large temples also have annadanam, where they give free food to all the people who visit the temple. They construct schools, they give scholarships to children. Now, the last or the most important allegation is a large section of these donations is used by the state government that controls the temples for generic purposes, and especially for some cultural activities pertaining to other religions as well. So it is just not the government control. It is not about the administration. It's not only about discrimination. It is also about spending of the money, because that's where, so land is a form of wealth and donations is also a form of wealth. So all this also comes under question. I leave it to you now, please.
Yeah, no, I actually, when I asked about the legislation around the Wakf board, that's the way I was also joining the dots, that governments do seek control over sources of revenue for them, and as I think somebody in our audience stream has just said, Hindu temples are like cash cows for every state government, irrespective of political party. And so we do have to remember the amount of wealth that is associated with some of these temples that no government obviously wants to give up control over. So that point is indeed well taken. But I want to come to your point of the religious identity of Jagan Reddy. You referred to it, you alluded to it. I've spent a lot of years reporting on the Indian military. And one of the concepts the Indian army has is of the Sarv Dharm Sthal, all religions at one place. The other very interesting concept they have is called the Mandir Masjid Gurdwara, the MMG. And the concept is that the commanding officer of a unit, if he is Muslim, he can still perform the arti. If he is Hindu, he can lead the namaz. That the uniform is the faith, and all other faiths are subsumed within it, which I think is a very beautiful concept, I think. Now, my question to you is, let us assume whatever, Jagan Reddy is a Christian, but he also believes in Tirupati, and the deity is Tirupati. Is that something that should be opposed, resisted, or criticized in this context?
Okay, so I do get your point, and that's a very valid point. From my understanding of your interviews, you come from the very revered family of army serving people. I think you come.
I'm not from an army family, but I've spent the last 30 years reporting on the army, so I feel like they're my family.
Yeah. So the point that you've made about the Sarva Dharma Sthal is very important, because in schools as well, Barkha, when I used to be a leader, school pupil leader or something. So when I had to recite, I used to recite a shloka and then used to recite a Christian prayer. So that's a part, because schools, army, hospitals for that matter, many hospitals will have one for Ganesh, and then there will be a Jesus and all of that. But these all become public service areas. See, be it army, be it education, hospital, and all of that. So people from all places come. But a temple isn't. See, a Hindu temple is meant for Hinduism. As simple as that. So if a person is trying of another religion wants to enter the temple can have a rule stating that people from other religions are not allowed. That's the temple's policy. But if the temple says, okay, we do allow people, just that you have to sign the declaration, why didn't he sign? See, my problem is not with Sri Jagan Mohan Reddy being a Christian, becoming a chief minister, and thereby saying that because I'm a chief minister, I belong to all, I come to Tirumala Tirupati. That's not the problem. But what made him not sign the declaration? It may be a simple thing, Barkha. But that's how it is. That's how it is. See, if you want to enter an army regiment, you want to enter a hospital, because that's a public service. But Hindu temple is not going to be public service. It caters to a certain religion. And if the temple's role is sign the declaration, sign. And see, let's take, for example, Sri Abdul Kalam. Abdul Kalam was continues to be, I could be wrong, but the most loved presidents of this country. across different sections of the society, the Hindu society as well, the amount of love and respects that pour. Nobody can see him with the mask of Islam. Nobody. That's Abdul Kalam for us. Why? Wasn't he a true Muslim? He was a true Muslim. But what made him so special? Because his real love and respect for other religions came through his life. When he spoke, when he wrote, that respect did come. That could not be seen by the same set of people in Jagan Mohan Reddy. That's the difference. So it's not about Jagan Mohan Reddy being the Christian, because if in that case, why is Abdul Kalam loved? So Abdul Kalam is loved for that reason, because you could see that, people, Indians are very good at sensing that. They know this person genuinely loves all of them. That they couldn't sense in Jagan Mohan Reddy.
Okay, let's end with coming back to why we know this after July, right? Chandrababu Naidu also has some things to answer about why this report, if available with them since July, why are people being told about it now? And what do you think should happen next?
Okay. So with respect to the timing of the report, honestly, Barkha, I don't follow the Andhra politics to a great extent. I know that there has been a perennial rivalry between the two leaders, who's Chandrababu Naidu and Jagan Mohan Reddy. That's for a political exponents like you to go into detail. But your question was, why now? Why did the report come? But I'll tell you, as an Astika, as a follower, whether the report was given in July or it is now given in September doesn't matter to me, because the fact remains the same. So fact remains is there was adulteration in the ghee, and allegedly there was beef, fish oil and all of that found. So whether it was told in July or September, I don't think my reaction, my sentiments, or the way that has impacted me would have changed. Coming to the politics, I would sincerely urge just not the two of them, all leaders across the country, please leave, I would say, keep religion slightly away. Unless and until a religion is affected, where you see that a religion is being victimized, then don't raise, you don't, bringing Shabarimala issue into politics. All this is not required. People know what to follow. People know what to follow. So I don't think the religious leaders have to come. And henceforth, what should be done? My honest opinion is there should be more tests done on the samples, and finally it should be proven that there was no such adulteration. That will be more, pacifying, convincing to a devotee, rather than telling that we did 4 more tests and we found. That's going to be devastating. See, it could be political. People can score brownie points over it politically. Keep politics aside. This is a question of faith, belief. And in case it is found from further tests that there were traces, then probably the person who was responsible, see, it comes from the ghee vendor here. The other people will not be. So who gave that tender? What kind of a company is it? Was it changed suddenly? Why was it changed? Why was that? All this should be asked. And unlike most other investigations that begin while I'm 40 and ends while I'm 60, shouldn't happen here.
Yeah, fair enough. Dushyanth, it's always a pleasure. One learns so much from you. Again, Dushyanth Sridhar has a new book out. It's called The Ramayanam. It's the first volume of many more to come. Do have a look at it if you haven't yet. And we hope to have a longer conversation and a separate conversation about your book as well. That is still pending. Dushyanth, thank you for talking to us, and take care.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.